So the way the world was constructed, in order for us to transform the will to receive to the will to give to others, God created two worlds, which is based on the pasuk of Zel Umat Zeh. God created this world in balance with the other world, one opposed to the other, and yet in balance with each other.
Where's that?
It's in the Koheles. So there are two worlds. There's the world of holiness, and then there's the so-called unclean world of the world of unholiness, which is also called the Sitra Acher, the other side. But what really characterizes the world of the holy, and what characterizes the world of the unholy? So again, here's the beauty of Rabbi Ashlag, is that it's very precise. What is holiness? What is unholiness? What is cleanliness? What's unclean? What is good and what is evil? We can come up with 1,000 different definitions. Most of them are emotional. They're not as precise and as beautiful, in my opinion, as Rabbi Ashlag's definition. That which is holy, again, following this castle that he built for us, that which is holy is the desire to give, the desire to impart and to help another, or even to give to God. That's what is holy. How we give to God is another subject we'll touch upon. What is considered unholy? What's the world of unholiness? What's the other side, or we can call it the evil? Is the desire just to receive for oneself alone. That's the basic definition of evil. And everything is a derivative of these two basic definitions. The unholy world is called a dead world. And the Rishayim, the wicked people, are called dead even in their lifetime. Why? Because they're connected to this world of evil, so to speak, which is just the desire to receive, which is a fabricated world. It was a creation for us basically to fix our desire to receive. So this fabricated world is not part of God's essence, and therefore, since God is the life of all of life, anyone connected to the world of the other side, the Sitra Acher, the world of unholiness, is called dead, because they're not connected to the source of sources, to the life of life, to God's essence, and it has no real substance by itself. It was just a creation for us to fix ourselves, to transform our innate desire to receive just for ourselves to a desire to give and to impart to others. So this whole world that we're part of is basically a construct so that we can fix the desire to receive to the desire to give. Now, all the purpose of the commandments and the Torah is basically to accomplish this exact goal, to transform the desire to receive to the desire to give benefit to others. And as we keep the commandments, even if at the beginning it's not for the correct purpose, even if it's what we call shalol lishma, if it's not for the right intention, eventually the magic of the Torah and the mitzvot is that eventually it will transform us so that we will go from the state of keeping the Torah shalol lishma, but not the best purpose, not for a selfish purpose, but eventually it will be transformed from keeping the Torah shalol lishma to lishma, for the true purpose of just imparting to others. So in other words, even if at the beginning we're keeping the commandments, we're keeping the Torah and the mitzvot for our own purpose, not just to receive God's reward in a physical sense, but even in a spiritual sense. If we're keeping the Torah and we're keeping the mitzvot to receive a spiritual benefit, that is not considered lishma, for the true pure purpose. If we go to shul and we love the spiritual experience, we feel a spiritual high, so to speak, and yet it's spiritual. We're not even asking for physical benefit from God when we're praying, when we're receiving the spiritual enjoyment. If the focus is just on ourselves to receive that spiritual benefit, then that also is considered lo lishma, not for the true best intention. And ultimately, even that has to be transformed into the will to give. And that's where many of us are deceived, in that we think that we're doing something spiritual, we're feeling the spirituality associated with it. This must be the highest level. It's not the highest level. It's only when that experience, even if it's a spiritual experience, is done for the intention of giving enjoyment to the Creator, which we'll explain in a little bit, or so that we can impart to others, then it's not the highest spiritual level. It's not what we call lishma. Now, many people are spending their entire lives learning Torah, and yet they're not on the highest level of lishma. They're doing it for, in a sense, selfish purposes, even though it's in the spiritual realm. So just because something is spiritual, it doesn't mean that it's with the right intention, that it's what we call lishma.
So, excuse me. So, at the end of days, when Mashiach comes, there's the concept of tzaddikim benefiting from the Ziv Shechina. Okay, and that in and of itself is just the radiation of the Shechina to them. That would seem to be just benefit to them.
Right. But the only purpose that we will want to receive all that spirituality is so that we were going to give pleasure to the Creator. Because we're going to realize how much God wants us to receive, that we're going to receive what God is giving us, and what's really in our minds is that we've decided we're going to receive all that spirituality because we know how much pleasure it gives God. Yeah, that's the highest level. That's a sign that you really have transformed your desire to receive to the desire to give. What basically defines who we are is the desire to give. So the motivating factor in our consciousness is giving. So God's giving us. So what do we think? What are we thinking about at that point when we transform this state of being? Is that the only thing we're thinking about is that God gets so much pleasure in giving to us that we want to receive because we're giving pleasure to God as He gives it to us. The beautiful example that our Brandwine always gives is the example of a host and a guest. So initially the host invites the guest. So who's the giver? The host. The host is giving to the guest, to the receiver. But then the guest says, no, thank you, I really don't want to eat dinner here in your house, thank you anyway. But the host wants to give so much, he asks again, and then the guest again refuses, but then the host again, desiring so much to give, he asks again and again and again. Finally the guest, the so-called receiver, says yes. But at that time, what happens is the giver is transformed into the receiver, because who's really receiving at that point? It's the host. He's finally so thankful that the guest wants to eat. He feels like the guest just gave him so much, which is actually greater than what he's going to give to